During the casting process for the 1970 television series The Odd Couple, Garry Marshall set out to find actors who could embody the contrasting personalities central to Neil Simon's story. For the neat and uptight Felix Unger, Tony Randall's name quickly came to the forefront. Randall, known for his sharp comic timing and dignified presence, impressed the producers not only with his credentials, but with a sense of vulnerability that fit Felix perfectly. The real challenge was casting Oscar Madison, the messy, easygoing sports writer. Jack Klugman, already respected for his stage and television work, stepped in for a chemistry test with Randall. Observers recall that the instant rapport between Klugman and Randall was clear. Klugman's rough-edged warmth played effortlessly against Randall's prim and precise delivery. The producers watched as the two built off each other's energy, even improvising moments during auditions that felt spontaneous and true to the characters. This chemistry made the decision obvious and set the standard for all subsequent castings. Supporting roles, such as the Pigeon Sisters, relied not only on comic instincts, but also on the ability to match the lead's pace and rhythm. Directors paid close attention to how each potential cast member could balance the quirky humor and heart at the core of the show. The process saw several actors cycle through script readings and group tests to find those who could handle the rapid-fire dialogue and nuanced reactions. As rehearsals began, the cast's comfort with one another solidified the show's blend of silliness and sincerity, which shaped The Odd Couple's lasting appeal. Instead of sticking closely to the original stage play, the directorial vision for the 1970 television series, The Odd Couple leaned into a blend of quick banter and visual comedy, shaping the show's unique tone. The director, primarily Garry Marshall, along with his early collaborators, drew inspiration from classic screwball comedies and vaudeville traditions, channeling slapstick humor as well as a more thoughtful, character-driven style. By focusing on the contrast between Felix's neatness and Oscar's sloppiness, the direction highlighted subtle reactions and physical gestures that would amplify the script's humor, letting the audience feel like they were in the same cramped New York apartment. Collaboration with the cast played a huge part in shaping the performances, especially since Tony Randall and Jack Klugman had already performed together on Broadway. The director would encourage improvisation and let scenes breathe, often allowing Randall and Klugman's chemistry to dictate the pacing and rhythm of a scene. The filming approach also helped to reinforce the story's realism, using multi-camera setups typical of sitcoms, but urging the crew to think cinematically, focusing on meaningful close-ups and movement within the set. Lighting choices kept the apartment warm and intimate, making it a believable battleground for the daily squabbles. The directorial style fused traditional sitcom dynamics with a respectful of the play's roots, resulting in a series where the comedy felt both spontaneous and sharply crafted, while the quirky personalities of the two leads stayed front and center. Right from its first episode in 1970, The Odd Couple has kept viewers laughing and thinking. Based on a play by Neil Simon, the show follows Oscar Madison and Felix Unger, two men with opposite personalities, sharing an apartment in New York. Oscar is messy and relaxed, while Felix is neat and uptight. Their differences lead to constant arguments, funny situations, and sometimes even touching moments, showing how unlikely friendships can form in tough times. Even today, people remember the quick jokes and relatable stories. Many fans consider the chemistry between Jack Klugman and Tony Randall one of the most genuine in television history. The show captured moments both humorous and sad, from wild poker games to honest talks about loneliness or divorce. Over the years, The Odd Couple set the standard for sitcoms about mismatched roommates, and many series have tried to copy that magic, but few have matched its warmth and humor. Now, what do you think makes The Odd Couple such an everlasting symbol of TV comedy? When did you first watch this classic series? And what memory stands out the most for you? We would love to hear about your memories or stories with The Odd Couple, so please share them in the comments below. There are plenty of funny, surprising, and heartfelt facts about the show ahead, so stay tuned and keep watching this video for more. From the outset, the production of the 1970 television series The Odd Couple faced the challenge of bringing the dynamic between its two mismatched roommates to life within mostly indoor apartment set environments. To create a believable and inviting living space for Felix and Oscar, the set design emphasized contrasting personalities through carefully chosen furniture and color schemes. Felix's side was neat and orderly with a clean classical style, while Oscar's area was cluttered and lived in, illustrating their opposing characters visually. This clever use of design helped convey their habits and temperament without heavy dialogue. Filming took place primarily on sound stages rather than on location, which allowed for greater control over lighting and camera angles within the confined apartment settings. This studio approach also eased the logistical bottleneck of shooting close interactions and comedic timing among the lead actors, giving directors the ability to manage multiple takes under consistent conditions. One logistical hurdle involved maintaining continuity in clutter and mess during repeated scenes, especially on Oscar's side, where the disarray had to feel authentic but also be precisely restored between takes. At the time, the show benefited from the era's evolving multi-camera filming technique, which allowed scenes to be captured from different angles simultaneously. This innovation helped preserve the play-like feel of the series while speeding up production, as scenes did not need to be repeated as many times from different perspectives. Although its techniques seem common now, using multi-camera setups with live audiences was a relatively fresh practice in television, contributing to the show's lively pacing and realistic reactions. Lighting setups also played a key role in enhancing the mood, balancing the brightness needed for clarity with softer lighting for the intimate apartment scenes. Moreover, the production team had to juggle the limitations of 1970s television technology, such as the constraints of standard-definition cameras and limited color options. Despite this, attention to prop placement and set continuity ensured the visual storytelling remained strong. Live audience reaction sometimes guided the timing and pacing decisions, creating a more engaging experience reflective of the original theatrical roots. The combination of deliberate, personality-driven set design, smart use of multi-camera filming, and careful control of environment and props resulted in a show that not only captured the essence of the characters, but also made the production process efficient and effective. The Odd Couple's world felt real enough to invite viewers into their quirky comedic adventures while overcoming the behind-the-scenes challenges of early 1970s TV production. Meanwhile, the 1970 television series based on Neil Simon's play introduced viewers to an unforgettable duo. At first, many doubted if a sitcom could reach the same heights as the celebrated film, but the series quickly justified its place in television history. Much of the credit belongs to the dynamic pairing of Tony Randall and Jack Klugman. Their chemistry brought the classic conflict of the neat freak and the slob to life, creating tension, warmth, and a contagious sense of fun. Klugman was thoroughly convincing as Oscar, the perpetually messy and laid-back sports writer, while Randall delivered an equally strong performance as Felix, whose pickiness and compulsive tidiness bordered on obsession. Of course, Felix's quirk sometimes edged into annoyance, but even at his most neurotic, Randall made the character likable, avoiding any bitterness that might have made viewers turn away. Instead, his antics made him more real and occasionally sympathetic when the world responded to his attitude with a dose of reality. The writing team, often unsung, managed to keep the central Odd Couple premise fresh week after week, finding a broad range of gags and emotional moments within the small, shared Manhattan apartment. They balanced each lead's traits just enough to generate genuine conflicts, without taking the show into mean-spirited territory. Not every episode was flawless, but missteps were rare, and the series thrived on the familiarity of its setting. The interplay wasn't limited to Oscar and Felix. Supporting characters like Al Molinaro's kindly Murray, the bumbling policeman, and the group of poker buddies gave the series texture, filling out a world where ex-wives, nosy neighbors, and romantic interests stirred things up. Their presence added a friendly comedic backdrop and sometimes stole scenes from the leads. Over the years, some felt the series stuck too closely to a formula. The show rarely strayed from the apartment or its central conflict, so viewers craving more variety or character development sometimes found it repetitive. Yet others saw the episodic structure as comforting and praised the writer's creativity in stretching the simple premise. In the end, the success of the show mainly rests on Randall and Klugman's performances. They managed to elevate stereotypes into three-dimensional people, with their flaws, humor, and mutual affection driving the series and giving it emotional depth. The Odd Couple became more than just a sitcom. For many, it stands as a highlight of 1970s television comedy, memorable for its character-driven humor and its portrayal of a tense but ultimately supportive friendship. Throughout the Odd Couple television series, music played a quiet yet memorable role, shaping the mood and tweaking the humor of every episode. Series composer Neil Hefti crafted the iconic main theme, an infectious melody built on sharp, playful piano lines. This instantly recognizable tune not only became a signature of the show, but also matched the quirky relationship between Oscar and Felix. Hefti's work was simple but clever, bending like jazz with bold comic timing that captured the messiness and sincerity of the oddball pair. Studio musicians often use smaller jazz ensembles, lending warmth and an improvisational feel that suited the spirit of New York apartment living as shown on TV. The soundtrack threaded through scene changes and quick banter, highlighting Felix's uptight neatness with brisk, sprightly riffs, and following Oscar's laid-back attitude with slower, looser sounds. Sometimes, the music briefly escalated or softened in response to the characters' frustrations or moments of reconciliation, ensuring the audience felt the tension and release alongside them. Rare interviews reveal Hefti appreciated the freedom the show allowed, giving him room to experiment without overwhelming the dialogue. The cast even remarked on how the score boosted their performances, especially during slapstick or heartfelt scenes where words alone weren't enough. Over time, fans associated specific cues with running gags or recurring stories, demonstrating just how closely the score was woven into the narrative fabric of the series. Hefti's ability to echo both comedy and sincerity in his tunes is one reason the soundtrack is still fondly recalled, and the theme remains one of the catchiest in classic TV. Even though the show often felt unstable in terms of ratings, much of its charm came from how the real interests of the lead actors shaped their characters. Tony Randall, who played the neat and cultured Felix, shared his love of opera and classical music with the role, while Jack Klugman, known for his easygoing style and love of horse racing, saw those qualities mirrored in Oscar. The relationship between the actors extended beyond the script. Klugman had already portrayed Oscar Madison on stage during the original Broadway production, bringing a familiar dynamic to the television adaptation. Despite Randall's constant concern that low ratings would get them cancelled, Klugman remained confident, often reassuring his co-star that the series would find greater success once it entered syndication. His prediction proved correct, as the show would gain new life and popularity in reruns, reaching audiences who missed it during its original network run. Behind the scenes, the production managed to capture the interplay between contrasting personalities, partly due to the actors' personal connections to the material. This blending of real interests and on-screen storytelling helped the characters resonate with viewers over time, building a lasting legacy that extended beyond its original run. Suddenly the camera pans into Felix's fastidious routine, every shirt ironed to perfect lines, while Jack Klugman as Oscar lumbers through the messy apartment in a shirt spotted with mustard. Director Garry Marshall held tight. Static shots to highlight the tension between neat versus chaos. A simple living room turning into a battleground. In the poker scene, sharp editing and Tim Kelleher's subtle musical cues let the actors finish each other's sentences, driving home the comedic timing. When Felix gets emotional, folding his laundry with trembling hands as he talks about his ex-wife, Tony Randall delivers the monologue in one long take, director choosing to let the silence hang, pulling the audience up close. The laugh track fades as Felix blows his nose, the ridiculous trumpet sound echoing, and the audience recognizes how pain and comedy blend. Meanwhile, Randall later said that the danger with scenes like these was making the tragedy too real. So he always kept one foot in the absurd. Jack Klugman claimed the key was to never play the joke, just play the truth, and let the audience find the laughter. Cinematographer George Spiro Dibby's warm, almost golden lighting softened the contrast between the two men, quietly inviting empathy for both. The spaghetti incident with the plate hurling is shot with a wide lens, leaving space for viewers to breathe through the chaos, while Marshall's direction avoids close-ups, trusting the actor's physical comedy to carry momentum. In scenes like the famous Oscar, Madison, "I will not tolerate little green globules of whatever that is in my refrigerator," the delivery rides the fragile line between irritation and affection. These moments, repeatedly cited by TV critics and recalled fondly by the stars, linger because they're rooted in both performed exaggeration and a deep understanding of loneliness and unlikely friendship. Even after his time on television, Jack Klugman continued performing in live theater, showing his passion for acting well into his later years. In November 2006, he appeared in James Sweet's play, The Value of Names, at the George Street Playhouse, located in New Brunswick, New Jersey. His dedication to the arts was not limited to acting on stage. He also contributed behind the scenes by serving on the board of directors for New York's National Actors Theatre, helping guide decisions and promote live performance. Meanwhile, Garry Marshall, who was instrumental in bringing humor and personality to the series, found inspiration in classic film. He often spoke about his admiration for The Pride of the Yankees, a 1942 film directed by Sam Wood, calling it his favorite. Marshall appreciated how the film told a powerful story with simple, clear emotion, something he tried to reflect in his own work. Both Klugman and Marshall influenced their areas of entertainment in unique ways, from live theater and organizational leadership to drawing from classic cinema in shaping television storytelling. Their dedication influenced not only the production process, but also the overall tone and impact of the series, drawing on their personal experiences and tastes to enhance their creative contributions. Quickly becoming one of the most memorable comedies of the 1970s, The Odd Couple brought together two wildly different personalities, Felix and Oscar, and placed them in the tight quarters of a New York apartment. As these men navigated daily life, viewers saw how small habits and quirks could drive people crazy, but also how friendship could overcome almost any difference. This concept reached audiences who were already seeing changes in American society, such as shifting gender roles and more people living alone or with roommates instead of traditional family units. The show used humor to talk about real issues like divorce, cleanliness, masculinity, and emotional expression, at a time when men rarely talked about their feelings on TV. Its witty banter and physical comedy made people laugh, yet it quietly challenged ideas about what men could or should be like. The Odd Couple influenced how later TV shows explored friendship and featured unconventional family structures, paving the way for entire genres focused on mismatched pairs or groups. Its catchphrases, and the image of two men bickering over trivial things, became part of American pop culture, referenced in other shows, movies, plays, and even commercials. The chemistry between the leads made many people rethink how two opposite personalities could coexist, hinting that true friendship asks for understanding, not sameness. At the same time, the show reflected a changing urban landscape in which more people understood what it meant to share space with someone very different. This gentle but pointed look at personal boundaries, compromise, and the humor found in everyday life proved to be both a mirror and a guide for audiences navigating a world that was starting to look less like the familiar nuclear family and more like the unpredictable adventures of Felix and Oscar. When Tony Randall played Felix, he was already building a strong legacy as an actor, leaving a mark far beyond television by founding the National Actors Theatre in New York. During the first episodes, viewers might be surprised to realize some familiar voices appeared alongside him. Christopher Shea, known for voicing Linus in the Peanut specials, played a recurring across-the-hall neighbor named Philip. Pamela Ferdin, who had been the original Lucy, took on the part of Felix's daughter Edna, connecting the show to a generation of people who grew up with the Peanuts characters. The series often blended acting with natural, almost documentary moments, as shown in the earliest opening credits. During that sequence, Tony, in character, sets his suitcases down on the street. A passerby, completely unaware of the filming, turned and asked if he needed a hand. That unscripted moment stayed in, showing real concern from a stranger and a quieter approach to comedy and drama. Behind the scenes and on screen, the show demonstrated how television could surprise its audience, mix formats, and even bring the faces behind famous cartoon voices into a new light, forming subtle connections between different branches of our entertainment during that era. Meanwhile, when The Odd Couple premiered in 1970, critics quickly pointed out its sharp writing and the undeniable chemistry between Tony Randall and Jack Klugman. Reviewers from major newspapers applauded the way the show explored mismatched personalities living together, making everyday arguments feel funny and relatable. Audience response was strong, too. Viewers tuned in week after week because they found the constant bickering and affection between Felix and Oscar both comforting and hilarious. The sitcom became known for its clever dialogue and comedic timing. Over its run, the show received several Primetime Emmy Awards, with Jack Klugman winning twice for Outstanding Lead Actor. Tony Randall also earned recognition, taking home an Emmy for his performance. The show's writing even scored nominations for its witty scripts. Beyond the Emmys, the cast and crew saw the series earn Golden Globe nominations and appreciation from viewers and critics alike. These accolades helped cement the reputation of everyone involved, marking the actors as comedic icons and establishing the series' ongoing influence in television history. Afterward, many actors went on to successful careers, partly due to their work on the show and the recognition they received. Syndication and reruns kept the series alive for years, making it clear that the praise was well-deserved and that audiences still enjoyed the classic odd pair dynamic. During its original run, there was concern at the network level about public perception of two men sharing an apartment after divorce. To prevent misunderstandings, the script included an opening narration clarifying that Felix and Oscar were divorced men, making it clear to viewers that they were not a couple in a romantic sense. However, the stars found humor in the situation. Tony Randall and Jack Klugman, aware of the network's concerns, would sometimes improvise exaggerated scenes filled with homoerotic banter as a joke and send them to the studio executives. Several of these outtakes later appeared in a 2005 collection, giving audiences a behind-the-scenes look at their mischief. The show's supporting cast included Penny Marshall, who went on to direct a film recognized by the Library of Congress for its cultural significance, further highlighting the lasting impact of those involved in the series. Despite the show's comedic focus, these production choices revealed both the era's social attitudes and the creative ways the cast handled network anxieties. While filming The Odd Couple in 1970, Tony Randall and Jack Klugman learned to play off each other's quirks, not just as Felix and Oscar, but also backstage. Between takes, the crew recalled how Tony would gently correct Jack's lines with the same fussiness his character displayed, and Jack would respond in true Oscar fashion by rolling his eyes until everyone on set was laughing. Once, Jack Klugman kept forgetting his prop cigar on the kitchen table, and rather than stop filming, Randall incorporated it into Felix's never-ending cleaning routine, turning an accident into a signature comedy moment. Throughout the series, the apartment set became a second home to the entire cast and crew. They would sometimes stay late just to chat about baseball and old radio shows. On particularly tough filming days, guest stars remarked that Jack warmed up the room by telling jokes, while Tony relaxed everyone with his soft piano playing in the corner. There was a running joke about Tony's endless neatness. He would straighten props in the middle of scenes even when the cameras weren't rolling, prompting the producers to make it a feature of Felix's character. Even wardrobe decisions led to laughter, with Jack insisting Oscar only owned 2 decent shirts, though the costume department tried to sneak in cleaner ones. The live audience added energy but also pressure. Jack once flubbed a line so completely he ad-libbed blaming Oscar's messy living room for tripping up his memory, drawing applause from everyone in the studio. The bond between the two leads extended after hours too. Tony and Jack would sometimes go for late-night deli runs near the studio, using their odd couple banter to order corned beef sandwiches or solve minor spats about mustard. Even extras and stagehands felt included, as the stars often brought donuts to share during early call times and made a point to learn people's names. On the last day of the first season, the entire cast and crew surprised Tony with cake shaped like a vacuum cleaner, and Jack with a giant sloppy sandwich, and everyone stayed late, swapping stories and laughter that echoed those memorable episodes. Originally, the search for Felix's character looked beyond the eventual television star, considering both Art Carney and Dean Martin. Carney had already created the role on stage for the Broadway production, but he was ultimately passed over when the show was adapted for television. Casting choices often surprise, as in the case of Jane Dulo, who portrayed Oscar's mother but was only 5 years older than Jack Klugman, the actor playing her son. This age difference was not addressed in the show and did not seem to trouble audiences at the time. Meanwhile, Oscar's personal life brought another curiosity to the series. During the run, his only steady romantic interest, Dr. Nancy Cunningham, suddenly vanishes from the story midway through the second season. Neither her character nor her departure is explained or referenced in later episodes, leaving viewers without closure or any mention of her again. These production choices and changes shaped much of the character dynamics and left their mark on the show's continuity, adding unexpected twists both behind the scenes and on screen. Over the years, The Odd Couple's impact on television and comedy has become almost impossible to ignore. Long after its first episodes aired in 1970, people saw echoes of Felix and Oscar's mismatched roommate dynamic everywhere. Hollywood took notice of how the series could pull strong laughs from everyday disagreements, perfect timing, and sharp contrasts in personality. Shows that followed, from Laverne and Shirley to Friends, all borrowed from its formula, drawing on the strength of 2 very different leads living together and learning to get along. Although The Odd Couple was based on Neil Simon's play and had already been a movie, it was the TV series that turned the characters into household names and shaped the way audiences embraced buddy comedies. Its influence is also clear in later works that relied on a clash of character traits, like Frasier or even The Big Bang Theory, where oddball friends figure out how to survive under one roof. Beyond story structure, The Odd Couple helped boost the appeal of sitcoms recorded in front of live audiences, using real laughter to add to the show's atmosphere and encourage a stronger bond between cast and viewers. When people look back on classic TV, Felix and Oscar remain as familiar as Lucy and Ricky or Archie Bunker, because the show's witty dialogue and genuine warmth turn small domestic squabbles into big, memorable moments. The Odd Couple's ability to blend humor with genuine affection made it timeless, and its footprint shows up not only in direct remakes and reboots, but in the DNA of American sitcoms ever since. Often seen as a highlight among early television sitcoms, the program drew attention to character work by including familiar faces in its roster of guest stars. John Fiedler, known for his quiet demeanor and precise comic timing, made an impression with viewers, though he expressed in interviews that his most recognized roles were actually from other series, such as his portrayal of Mr. Peterson on another comedic show, and his turn as a police official in a widely discussed science fiction episode. This pattern demonstrates how actors in the cast found themselves crossing paths with fame in unexpected places outside their most steady sitcom work. Meanwhile, Pamela Ferdin stood out for a different reason, as her career included a notable cinematic milestone. She became recognized as the first performer to eliminate a Clint Eastwood character in film, specifically in a psychological drama released in the early 70s. Later episodes often carried subtle references to the actor's earlier careers or notable cultural moments. For instance, the storyline in which the two main characters encounter each other during jury duty was crafted as a subtle tip of the hat to classic courtroom dramas in film history. This specific scenario was inspired by a celebrated role played by Jack Klugman in a movie released in the late 50s, showing how the writers incorporated homages to important works in the industry. Through these creative choices, the series blended situational comedy with background knowledge that some in the audience would recognize, enriching episodes for those who appreciated layered storytelling, while still appealing to a general viewership. These small details set it apart from other sitcoms of its era, and gave additional depth to what could have been simple comedic plots, inviting audiences to make connections across genres and decades, and encouraging interest in the past work of its talented cast members. Suddenly, thinking back to The Odd Couple brings to mind all those small but unforgettable moments. Maybe it was catching an episode on a quiet Sunday evening, laughing at Felix's neat freak habits, or shaking your head at Oscar's laid-back messiness. The way Tony Randall and Jack Klugman played off each other made it feel like you were right there in the living room with them. For some, the show taught that it's okay to be different from your friends, or made you see how two people with nothing in common could still make it work. Others might remember how The Odd Couple's humor helped them through a rough patch, or brought family together after dinner to unwind and share a laugh. Chances are, these characters and their offbeat friendship left an impression, maybe even shaping what you expect from comedies, or making you notice similar real-life odd couples. If you have a favorite scene, a personal memory, or even a way the show changed how you see friendship or humor, share those stories right here in the comments. You might find others who laughed at the same jokes or learned the same lessons. Your memories are part of what keeps The Odd Couple alive for new generations. Go ahead, tap like if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, share with someone who remembers Felix and Oscar, and subscribe if you want more conversations about the shows and films that